Hi, I'm an Australian guy living here in Belarus, going for a beautiful stroll along the river today. Nice and sunny. And I'm going to talk about something really deep today, deep and meaningful and emotional. And that is the one thing that I really miss about Australia. And I didn't miss this until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now I miss it really deeply. So let me give you a setup first. So I've been here for just over 1 year. Here in Belarus, a little country that I knew pretty much nothing about. I just came here for a few months just because I could come here, basically. Nothing else was really open for business, so I'll come here. It's kind of near other countries that I'm familiar with, so it should be kind of similar to those and blah. Turns out it's not really that similar to the countries around it, a little bit, but not so much. But nonetheless, obviously if I'm here a year later, I've enjoyed myself. And of course I've set up a life that I enjoy here. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of close friends that I see regularly, as well as a lot of kind of peripheral friends that I can call on to whatever, have a coffee with, chat to, go for a walk in the park, whatever it is. So compared to the average guy, I have a lot of social circle here, and social circle that I like. So I don't like to spend time with people unless I like them. I don't want company for company's sake, right? I'd rather be alone. Now that word alone gets me to what a lot of people experience, and I'm sure that you, if you've spent long periods of time outside of your country, you've probably felt loneliness at some stage, or disconnectedness, and wanting to kind of be around people you know. I mean, no doubt you've felt this, especially in early stages. I think when people move to a country, it might take them a few months to build up any kind of social networks, and they're having to hang out with people they don't really like that much, just to have people to hang out with and to be out and about doing things, right? As I say, fortunately, I've met quite a few guys that I really actually like, and I like to hang out with and spend time with, as well as a lot of other peripheral guys, right? So things are pretty good in that respect. Now, what happened about 9 months after I came here, I went to India to my friend's wedding. He was the groom, and we are good friends. We have known each other for many years. We lived together for a couple of years in Melbourne. So we are very close. We are very emotionally close to each other. And there was another 3 Australian guys at the wedding who came from Australia. I came from Belarus, obviously. And 2 of those guys are very close friends to me. I see them a lot in Melbourne, and I know them for many years. So I was kind of excited by this. It's like, wow, 9 months is a long time when you're not living in your own country, right? Of course, if you're living in your own country, 9 months can go by very quickly and nothing really changes. But again, 9 months in a different country, especially one called Belarus, and you've covered a lot of ground, right? So I'm like, cool, this will be great. Go to India. My friend's getting married, which I was very excited for him. I really wanted to be a part of it. And I can see these friends, like, this is really good. So I went along to India. It's quite a checkered path from Belarus at the moment. It's kind of not easy to get there, but we got there in a day and a bit, a day and a half, whatever it was. We got there, and I saw my friends, and big man hugs all round. Great to see you, man. What's going on? But I quickly realised that I wasn't that excited to see them. Oh, sounds savage, right? So let me get across this street. In fact, what I'll do is I'll turn this camera around, if you like, and you can see where I'm walking to. And I quickly realised that I wasn't that excited to see them. And after a couple of hours, I'm like, said to them, this is weird, man. I don't feel that excited to see you guys. I'm not like pumping excited. And I thought it through, and I realised that it's because I see them all the time. Like via video call. I speak to them all the time via telephone. I have these ongoing voice message conversations with people. So I might leave a 5-minute voice message conversation talking about something, and then my friend will respond maybe a few hours later, and then I'll respond when I get to it, they'll respond when I get to it. So I just have these perpetual conversations going with probably a dozen people. As a result, I feel like I'm still kind of connected with them. So this is kind of really weird. But anyway, that happened. We hung out a lot. It was a really good time, and went back to Belarus, my current home. And that was that. Got on with things. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I thought, I want to go do some things, and I need to do them fairly soon. So I need to go to a few countries to do these things in. So I thought, look, while I'm in that kind of part of the world, India's being one of them, while I'm in this part of the world, I might nick back to Australia. Because I got a lot of winter clothes and, there's a bank card waiting for me, some tax stuff I got to do in person, blah, blah, blah. So there's a few reasons, administrative reasons, why I might nick back to Australia. And I started to think about it, and it's like, okay, well, how long should I go for? And I guess 2 weeks is kind of like a default, right, in my head. It's like it's enough time to do some stuff. I want to do some filming as well. I want to do some comparison videos, Minsk and Melbourne. Well, that'd be cool. Might do a bit of street walking in Melbourne as well, chuck it on the channel. It might be interesting to contrast the two. I kind of thought about who I want to catch up with. And I'm like, 2 weeks should do it. I can merge some friends together at the same time. Should I go this way? Or should I go this way? I reckon, actually I might go this way. That's the Bitskaya, by the way. This is Bitskaya Street. This is headed up to kind of Namiga direction. And I'm thinking all the friends that I'll see and what will happen, how we'll hang out, where we'll hang out, what we'll talk about, what kind of time I want to spend with them. Trying to think about what's a reasonable time. I don't want to go home for a month or 2 months. I'm not down for that, but definitely a couple of weeks is cool. I'm like, okay, I can fit it all in a couple of weeks. That's pretty good. Because the problem is, of course, no one's available during the day, only in the evenings. So I can entertain myself during the day. Well, that time I'll have a lot of footage to edit and blah, 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 other stuff to do, other ventures I'm involved in outside of YouTube. And, I can just effectively work during the day and then meet people at night. And I started to think about this and it's like, geez, I really miss a lot of my friends. I hadn't thought about it, but I really do. And I miss some of the routines. You know how you often have a friend and then you guys often go to XYZ place together. That's kind of your place. You both like it there and you go there. Or maybe you have 2 or 3 places that you prefer with a certain friend or certain friends. And that's kind of how it is. Now I recognise there's some Beastie Boys playing in the background there, so I'll probably get a monetization issue, so I may blank this part of the conversation out. So the music's kind of gone now. So if it did go blank there for 10 seconds, I've just blanked out the music to stop the demonetization. It appeared to be the Beastie Boys pumping away in that bar as I walked past. Yeah, I kind of thought, gee, I really miss a lot of my friends. And I kind of thought it through and I'm like, yeah. I mean, some of these guys I'm going to hang out with, I might have known for just 5 years. Some 10, some 15. Some from university, it's more like 20, 25. Undergrad university. Some guys in high school, like 30 years. And it's like, I kind of realized that there's something about time that creates a bond inside of us. So even though I feel kind of intellectually matched with a lot of guys here, or at least able to have enough things in common to want to actually hang out regularly, it's not quite the same as having that time bond. That time bond really matters. Like when I see a picture, so some of my friends in Australia, they're more in their 40s and I think a couple even in their 50s. So they're all married guys, and on a Wednesday night they have their boys' night and they go for a beer, and this is the night where I can kind of see them properly. So I go there every now and then on a Wednesday, hang out with them. Well, I did when I was in Australia. And I'm kind of picturing myself there.
Assalamu alaikum. Where are you from?
Australia.
Australia. Excuse me, in Australia, gas, electric gas.
Do we have gas?
Yes.
Actually, I will just tell you what that guy wanted to talk to me about. He was actually being very kind. Very kind. He asked me where I'm from. And I said, Australia. He said, oh, not Western Europe. Because I saw on the news, maybe they don't have enough gas. It's like, do you have enough gas in Australia? And I'm like, well, I think we do. I think we have lots of natural resources in Australia. We're a net exporter of most things. I didn't say it in those words, obviously. But I'm just like, yes, we have a lot. Thank you. And he's like, oh, if you want, you can stay here for 1 year. If you want to live here, because we have lots of gas. So you can live here for gas. It's very sweet, actually. It's it's kind of very kind to do that. Unusual conversation to have with a random person, but he was a local guy, Belarusian guy, and he's just like, if you have a problem, just live here. It's I mean, of course I know this, but yeah, interesting offer from that random Belarusian guy. It kind of shows, though, a little bit about Belarusian culture. They are very kind, considerate people for the most part. And as I say, you don't get too many invitations to stay in a country just walking down the street, right? Worried I don't have enough gas or something. So, yeah, interesting. I just had a guy wanted to have a conversation there. Wasn't sure what he wanted at the start, because you get all kinds of people kind of look at you, stare at you. Some want to talk to you, some whatever, want to share their opinions on things you're not interested in. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, there's something about that time bond that's really powerful that I'd underestimated. I'd underestimated the strength of that time bonding over time, and that familiarity. And that's not just for people, it probably is for place as well, but not as much. Like when I picture Melbourne in my head now, and as I say all this, I want you to think about your life and your experiences when you've spent long periods of time outside of your country. So for me, when I think of what's around in Melbourne, I don't miss the geography, I don't miss the buildings, I don't miss this, that, the other thing. I don't care about this stuff, actually. I feel no attachment to this at all. But I do miss people in a sense, and certainly that familiarity, again, that long-term time bonding thing. I do miss that on some level. It's not a big thing in a sense. It's not a big thing in that it will change my life trajectory at this point. It certainly won't. But it's interesting that it's just popped up now, especially when I'm in this situation where I couldn't probably have a better circle of friends or a more thorough circle of friends and social networks. Given my situation of having moved here without knowing anybody, I couldn't have hoped to really have it go any better socially. I'm aware that a lot of guys have no friends here, foreigners. For example, a guy, just like that guy stopped me then, an American guy stopped me, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he's been here for 6 years. He's a slightly older guy, maybe, it's hard to say, low 50s maybe, early 50s. He's been here for 6 years. He has his Belarusian wife and he has a son here. He just want to have a bit of a chat. And he's trying to launch some streaming channel. And I'm like, well, good on you. He's like, oh, can I interview you? And I'm like, look, because he spoke about his politics. I'm like, it's a bit extreme for me. I don't really want to be involved in this kind of stuff. I don't feel like I'm probably a suitable fit, but there's a lot of guys here that would be. I'm like, how many expats do you know? And he's like, none. I'm like, oh, you just hang out with local guys? He's like, oh no, I don't speak Russian. And it's like, so you've been here for 6 years and you don't have a single friend. Like, I'm laughing, not because I'm laughing at him, I'm laughing because it sounds bloody weird. And what kind of human being would want to live without any social networks? It seems to be truly bizarre to me, aside from his wife and child. And I'm assuming that his wife isn't fluent in Russian, in English. So he's having kind of broken English conversations all the time. And I presume teaching his son English. At the same time, communicating English with his son, who obviously wouldn't be that old yet, but nonetheless, he didn't have a word of Russian at all, not one word. Not even like spasibo. So anyway, I was thinking, like, I actually know a few guys like this. I've met a few guys like this, and people do come up to you when I'm filming. I'm kind of surprised actually at how many people do come up to me when I'm filming and chat to me. That guy was a random guy just then, by the way, the guy that just spoke to me 2 or 3 minutes ago. But typically people will recognize me and want to talk and say hello, which is awesome. I appreciate it, I really enjoy it. But because I get to meet so many random people, I see a lot of people are actually quite socially isolated, especially people who live here for a long time. I know a few different American guys in that situation where they really have pretty much no social networks, or very limited social networks, which again, I can't imagine me being happy in that situation, but I am very happy with my social networks. I'm surprised at how easily I've met people who I like and want to hang out with, and these things have gone very smoothly. So I'm kind of surprised that I'm suddenly getting this wanting long-term friends around me thing, and it's kind of stuck there for a couple of weeks. And I'm quite looking forward to going home, which again, you go back 3 months, If you said, I'll give you $10,000 to go back to Australia for 2 weeks, I'd be like, no thanks. Add a zero and we'll talk, right? So, yeah. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories, because I know a lot of people who watch the channel are probably not in their home country. If you're a foreigner here watching me now, I mean, you probably know me already in some way, but if you're out of your country, you obviously have an interest in this country. Or if you're a Belarusian who's watching me in a country other than Belarus, I know there's a lot of those as well, or other Eastern and Central European people who are kind of moving around, tell me your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on, keep it broad, but narrow down to what you want to talk about, but broadly speaking, like how have you found making new friends, making long-term friends, dealing with, I guess, wanting to see those social connections that you have, and have you been able to kind of replace those in a sense? Because I guess if you hang out somewhere for 5 years, 5 years is like a pretty long-term friend, right? You have a lot of bonding and connection in 5 years. But is it still not the same as 30 years? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your experiences in this space. So do let me know. I really enjoy, I don't really care about most comments. Like, honestly, people just write any crap. Half the people who write a comment didn't even watch the video. They just want to rant about something, which I just have no interest in at all, and I don't know why they do it. But other people, on occasion, leave really long-winded personal messages. And I really, really enjoy this. I enjoy reading them and following up and learning more about their situation. So if you have a situation that's kind of relevant to this discussion in some way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. For now, see you later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, like it anyway. If you're subscribed, I thank you. If you're not, feel free to press that big bright red button with the word subscribe written on top of it.